O'clock. Well, it was 90 years ago today that the guns fell silent and the armistice was signed, bringing an end to World War I. Ceremonies are already underway around the world, including this one at Fromelles in France, attended by Governor-General Quentin Bryce. And this year the focus is on the Western Front, where nearly 300,000 Aussies served and more than 46,000 died. Just incredible figures. We always acknowledge our diggers' sacrifices at Gallipoli, and rightly so, but is it time to pay the same attention to the Western Front? Let's ask historian McLachlan and Anne Morrison, whose great-great-uncle served and died in Belgium. Good morning to you both.
Morning,
now, Matt,
good morning.
Matt, just put in perspective the role that we played in ending the First World War.
Well, Koshi, in 1918, the Australians played a vital role in ending the First World War. At the start of 1918, we played a vital role in stopping a major German attack known as the German Spring Offensive. And then from August onwards, we really spearheaded with the Canadians the great Allied advance that brought the First World War to an end. It's one of the most important chapters in our war history, but it's not very well known, unfortunately.
And Matt, the sacrifices that were made were just extraordinary. We tend to forget First World War was fought on horses and things like that, a long way from the jet fighters and the bombs that we have today. But the casualty figures are staggering.
They certainly are, and I think, again, it's another example of how we know so much about Gallipoli, but not about the Western Front. We lost 5 times as many men on the Western Front as we did at Gallipoli, but once again, it's something that's not as well known as it should be.
And tell us about your great-great-uncle who fought on the battlefields of Belgium, but his remains were only found 2 years ago. How were they discovered, and how do you feel with that connection to him?
Well, we were very lucky to have his remains found. They were doing some gasworks in Ypres, which is in Belgium, and the gentleman discovered the remains of the Australian soldiers. There were 5 of them under a road wrapped in blankets that obviously been put there carefully by their mates, and they got a local historian and he came and organised the excavation. And then the army were notified because they could recognise the Australian uniforms, and then they contacted the Age, that put an article in the paper, and my mother recognised the name of Sergeant George Calder from an old notebook that my aunt had, and she contacted the army and they did a DNA test and it came back positive, and therefore we had the connection there.
You went back to the area. Tell us what it was like. It's particularly haunting to go through the Menin Gate there, isn't it, and to see the list of soldiers that helped liberate that town.
That's right. There's thousands and thousands of names of missing soldiers on the Menin Gate, and it really makes you feel very insignificant, and that these people were just so young when they gave their lives in this war, and they fought under horrendous conditions because they had the worst rain and mud in several decades.
It is an amazing area. Matt, you take tours of the area. I've been lucky enough to go through the area and was just so moved, as my kids were. More people should go to the Western Front and have a look, shouldn't they?
You go to the Western Front and stand in these enormous cemeteries. Is how much is a little piece of Australia there. You see headstones from boys from Ballarat and Wagga and Bunbury and messages from families because they never got to visit these graves. They were just simply too far away. It's an incredibly moving experience, and I think Australians are often surprised at their reaction when they get there and see and just see how many Australians died in these terrible circumstances. It's a very worthwhile journey.
It is such an important part of our history. Matt and Anne, thank you for your time this morning on the 11th day of the 11th month, and of course we'll all have a minute's silence at the 11th hour. Thank you again.
Thanks, Josh.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.